Why does a neighborhood patrol need night vision goggles and combat boots? Yeah, I still don't have an answer for that. But I'll tell you what, I started asking myself that exact question for the third time as Greg stomped into our yard decked out like he was on a SWAT raid. The dude never knocks, never calls. He just breezes right through our gate like my grandpa's got a meth lab tucked under his rose bushes or something. You ever tried to be patient with people like that? I have. But let me tell you, when a grown man trespasses 3 nights in a row and still insists you're the one breaking the rules, something inside you snaps. And this last time, Grandpa wasn't the only one watching the circus. I mean, maybe it's me, maybe I'm crazy, so tell me, am I nuts? Or is this straight-up harassment? So, let me back up a sec. You know that feeling after a day from hell, clients nitpicking your designs, your boss breathing down your neck. When you finally step outside, hose in hand, and for 5 minutes you're just a regular person again. That was me, Tuesday, around 4:30 p.m. The sun hit the water spray just right, tiny rainbows flickering on my tomato plants. For a moment, I forgot about invoices and HOA fees and just let the honeysuckle waft over from the neighbor's fence. Birds did their little choir thing up in the oaks, and I thought, this is why I bother to make everyone else's houses beautiful. My own slice of peace. Grandpa Frank, 75, a retired military guy who moved in after Grandma died, sat on our porch, which he'd pretty much turned into his personal command center. He's got his old mug, his readers perched on the edge of his nose, and he's scanning the street like Mrs. Peterson's poodle might suddenly go rogue. He knows every delivery truck's exhaust note, exactly which neighbor's kid snuck out last Saturday, and, somehow, when the mail carrier will be 5 minutes late. You get used to it, you know? Most of the time, having Frank on watch feels like a security blanket. But that Tuesday, just as I'm lost in my tomato reverie, I hear voices near our front gate. Sharp, official tones that instantly put me on edge. I shut off the hose, peek around the side, and sure enough, there's Paula Clark, HOA president, rocking her favorite navy blazer, complete with a shiny "I'm in charge" pin, standing beside Greg, clipboard already in hand, boots laced tight like he's about to breach a bunker. Greg's got the build and attitude for a security detail, but let's be honest, if the biggest threat in our suburb is an overgrown rose bush, he's overqualified. Paula comes at me with that saccharine sweet voice you only hear when someone's about to ruin your week. We need immediate access to your property for a tree inspection. It's in accordance with the new resolution from last week's emergency meeting. I'm holding my garden hose, trying to keep cool, and ask, as calmly as I can, if they have a warrant or some kind of court order. Paula's smile just evaporates, fast. She glances at Greg, gives a little hand signal, like they practiced this at home, and suddenly, Greg's scaling our 6-foot iron fence. Seriously, who does this? Paula just stands there, hands clasped, like this is just part of her Wednesday routine. I squeeze the hose until it hisses, every muscle locked up watching this guy drop into my yard, near my flower beds, no less, clipboard at the ready. He starts scribbling, snapping photos of our lawn from angles that make even our gnome statue look suspicious. He's making chalk marks on the patio stones, which, for a second, I thought might be alien communication. When I finally ask what he thinks he's doing, Greg just shrugs me off, eyes never leaving the clipboard. Frank, up on the porch, barely glances up from his coffee and deadpans. Son, didn't know our fence was open for climbing lessons. But Greg's on a mission, taking measurements between random plants, photographing my garden shears, jotting down nonsense, and marking up the patio like it's the scene of a crime. Paula, still outside, recites HOA codes like she's a Supreme Court justice. 20 minutes of this, and then they're gone, leaving behind a mess of chalk and the kind of angry silence that lingers long after the birds start singing again. Frank waits till they round the corner and says, "That felt like a warning shot, not a random check." He wasn't wrong. 3 days later, there's an official-looking envelope in the mailbox, thick, heavy, HOA logo up top. The list of violations reads like bad satire. Bushes too tall by 2 inches, 3 spots of uneven grass, a slightly faded gate. Stuff no neighbor has ever mentioned. There are photos, too, taken when I know we weren't home. The kicker? A $2,000 fine. $2,000. For having the same yard we've always had. I show Frank, who barely flinches. "We need cameras," he says, And that's that. That afternoon, I'm at the electronics store, dropping $300 on a camera system that makes me feel like I'm prepping for a heist, not watering petunias. But it pays off. 2 days later, Greg's back, now dressed as a utility worker, complete with a fake-looking badge and a tool belt he's probably never used. He tries to stage photos of garbage he just dropped himself. Caught all of it on camera. The next morning, another fine. This time for improper waste disposal, electrical safety hazards, and failure to maintain cleanliness. Frank inspects the fake evidence with a cool, clinical eye, then looks at me and says, "Next time, our gate will know how to defend itself." I wasn't sure if I should be impressed or worried, honestly. But then, twist, Mrs. Henderson from Oak Street shows up. She hands over a folder showing Paula's been running this racket on other families. Manufactured violations, threats, forced foreclosures. 5 other families lost their homes, and every time, Paula bought the house cheap, then flipped it for profit. We weren't the first, and if she got her way, we wouldn't be the last. That's when the real escalation started. Greg calls at midnight, threatening a surprise inspection for emergency compliance. Frank, dressed and ready in the hallway, just grabs his camera gear and says, "Time to catch them in the act." That next night, 3:07 a.m., our cameras record Paula and Greg, both dressed as cops, sneaking up with flashlights and wire cutters, radioing fake dispatch chatter like it's a movie set. Greg tries to disable the gate's warning lights, but Frank had rigged it. A spark flies, Greg yelps, and suddenly the whole neighborhood's awake, porch lights blinking on all down the street. Frank steps out, camera rolling, calmly stating every crime Greg and Paula just committed: trespassing, impersonating police, vandalism, you name it. Actual police arrive within minutes, because Frank had already called them. And the look on Paula's face as Greg gets cuffed? Priceless. But the fight was only just starting. Paula goes on a PR blitz. She live streams from our sidewalk with a pink microphone, painting us as vigilantes with death traps, crying crocodile tears, and spinning Greg as a wounded hero. Suddenly, neighbors are crossing the street to avoid us. Delivery guys refuse to approach. Our house, once peaceful, is now the fortress. Paula even files a $50,000 lawsuit for assault with a deadly weapon. Yeah, you heard right. Frank doesn't miss a beat. He collects every document, audio recording, and video. Turns out, he's been sharing everything with the feds. And as the HOA's emergency meeting approaches, Paula's moment to get us booted for good, Frank comes in with the receipts. Literally. He projects spreadsheets showing Paula has been siphoning off HOA funds for years. Luxury trips, personal renovations, you name it. Over $60,000 gone. Then he plays recordings of Paula colluding with realtors to snap up foreclosed houses, bragging about targeting suckers who wouldn't fight back. The room flips. Residents go from scowling at us to staring daggers at Paula. The meeting erupts. Paula tries to run, but FBI agents are waiting outside. Turns out, our petty HOA drama is part of a $2 million criminal network operating in 24 states, with Paula at the center. Frank's evidence blows the whole thing open. Paula's facing federal charges for racketeering, wire fraud, conspiracy, and more. Greg cooperates, spilling everything about their scheme to fleece vulnerable families. 12 other HOA presidents go down, too. The judge hands down real justice. Paula gets 7 years, her assets seized, her victims compensated. Greg gets 18 months and a lifetime ban from HOA work. 6 months later, our neighborhood is peaceful. Frank's been elected interim coordinator. His only campaign promise was to keep the coffee hot and the bylaws honest. We got reimbursed for every expense, and then some. The gate's just a normal security gate now, no more shocks. Kids play in the yard again. Neighbors wave. But sometimes, when the night's quiet, I hear the soft hum of that gate and wonder if it's just the wiring or a reminder. This is what happens when regular people get pushed too far. You stand up, you fight back, and sometimes, you change everything. So what would you have done? Am I crazy, or was this just what had to be done? Let me know. Seriously, drop your take below. Where's the line between community and control, and what's real justice in a world full of little dictators with clipboards? If you got something out of this story, you know what to do. Stay sharp, take care of your people, and maybe, just maybe, keep your gate wired, just in case.